Good afternoon. So now we achieved the second day. The second day, row named after Plekhanov. I can congratulate everyone with this very important event. 116 years. It's great. And this scientific gathering, it's great. So happy birthday, university. And we all here today gathered. So it's a very interesting topic and for the youth especially. Pavel Alexandrovich, our moderator, he tell us the name and three main points in the name: digitalization and military complex. Planning of military complex and military industrial complex. So interesting civilization and here there are experts, professionals on this issue. And the result of our discussion. So based on our meeting and discussion, and I would like to have some kind of thesis. What we need to do in order to make winter comes. Winter doesn't come unexpectedly, and that we expect summer and know that summer will be. Why? Because it's very often that suddenly winter comes unexpectedly, and we have to change our wheels of the car, and I don't think it's correct. In such meaningful industry like defense industry, it was flagman, it was driver defense industry all the time and in all economies, world economies. And it has different percent. In some national economy it was less, in some more, but it was always driver in the Soviet time and nowadays and in the world economies. And there are three drivers: military and industrial complex, construction, and digitalization. So if you come somewhere in Europe, let's say, for example, we get used to mobile application banking in Europe. There is not such services like we have everywhere. So for them, it's something beyond the borders. So my introductory is over, and I give a floor to moderator. Thank you very much, Sergei Alexandrovich, for very warm welcoming. So we welcome you at digital planning session. So it's the necessary part for defense industry, and Sergei Alexandrovich started with drive, and I continue this. And dear colleagues, I give a floor to Babayan Evgeny Borisovich, the manager of ANO Digital Country, expert in this field. And he's with great experience in this field, and he's the counselor of one of the leader of Rostech. So, please, could you please switch on presentation? Please, who's responsible for presentation? To switch it on.
Отвечает за... Работает.
Так.
Прежде чем я приду к этому, я несколько слов скажу, что, скажем, представлюсь.
So let me introduce myself. I'm chairman of main designers of consortium digital economy, which is in Plekhanov Institute, Roscosmos, Rostech, and foreign institutions. And the target of our consortium was, so it was created in 2017, and the target was how to understand how to build systems, electronics, machinery, so to build it so way in order to consume it and to use it conveniently. So it appeared there is no free markets. So like we were taught, so atomic energy, aviation energy, electronics, they are all not free market. So, and we had to learn how to it work. And we understood that in order to start, we need to build a model, a pilot, and to understand how it works. And not just to sell how marketing works. We need to plan, and we name it project market and systems. And now I will speak about this, how to plan market, how to manage them, how to manage industrial production chains, how to build transport logistics and influence point in the world in order to manage such complicated systems. So we go through fast. So, and there are some approaches among the all possible, and hundreds people are involved in this project. And I would say that civil complex is driver here, and there are many reasons. And we worked with such institutions like Institute of Problem Management, so Central Economy, Mass Economy Institute, Forecasting Institute of Household Economies. So this slide, it was drawn in 2018, and it's written here, so how the players are being insured, platforms, systems are being provided to them, and here you can see the growth point. You can see on this slide and the target in order to design it. So here the target model. So, and now the representatives of consortium in Africa, China, and there are 50 representative offices around the world. So, and these coordinations should be done in one model, which we discuss now. Challenges nowadays. I don't think you will be surprised much. So being smart, talented, ingenious, so but the markets we work on is not significant in order to return money or get resources. So, and we are lack of intellectual resources, labor resources. And the target was to unite, based on one model, to unite capabilities of production, intellectual resources, and consumers, and to build consumers on this system to manage the design and production chains and transport logistics and to control all of this. The main principles, they probably are simple, but the meaning of them, so we have to offer beneficial conditions to the players, including Africa, India, and the USA always agree. Also agree if they accept the conditions, economic conditions, and there are many players in the market. So if you want to accept them, the conditions and offers. If not, then not. So resources, capabilities, and distribution, income distribution dependent of your contribution. And it should be created in such way in order to distribute between players who contribute resources. For example, if Egypt we use as polygon project New Delta, it's 500,000 square kilometers. This is from Alexandria, from Nile River. Then there is polygon of agricultural energy, droning. And when you look at it, how it's built, then you need to understand the economy, Egypt economy, the point growth, hub position in transport, intellectual hub to Africa, and then you understand the construction of model. When we understand construction of model, then we can apply our experience from India and people who provided polygon and resources and very large universities, Alexandria University, Cairo University, Al-Shan, thousands of students in every of them. And then the access to resources, direct resources without intermediaries, and the sales from the general ecosystem. And every step is hampering of spendings, outspendings. And here on this slide, the principles are written, the resources which are provided, how much you pay, regional, industrial, ecosystems, and designing. This is important. So, and designing gives opportunity to work on certain decision which was delayed. And when you have access to testing environment, testing communities, and designing, so many things like automobiles should be testing on the civilian things first. Games are testing human behavior, consumer behavior in the game, so being tested during decision. So then it will be applied in defense industry. So rather it's civil society, not military. And when all circumstances are performed, small remark, and the question is about and the civil can be done or can be bought. But defense industry, so no, the key things you have to
В
have
крайнем случае гражданка, гражданка это и есть основа независимости.
economy.
И куда ты
It's
денешься? Если ты не сделаешь сильные гражданские продукты,
the
ты
base of
сможешь контролировать
independence.
практически никаких
You won't be
расходов
able to
по
control
управлению гражданством.
chains.
Ты просто сделаешь бедным свою страну и
You will
будешь
just
кризис.
make your country poor,
Вариантов нету.
and there are no other options.
Безопасность, она комплексная, и это дает глобальность мира.
And
В этой
security is
период я
complex,
считаю
and
довольно
it gives
четко, вы не должны стеснаться
globality of the
и
world.
вводить ракеты внутри своих границ. Только выстраивание долгосрочных целей,
So
это
just
нам
building of
пытаются
long-term
повторить
target.
копию, что было при Советском
And then we
Союзе.
have to
Советский
copy
подход
what was in the
погиб.
Soviet Union doesn't
Первая
work.
причина.
And there are
Совсем
several
другие технологии нельзя применять.
reasons for
План,
this.
который
Very
был
different
конечно,
technology,
просто
which is not
разработан, потому что это
possible to apply. State plan built on the different technology planning. Planning is obligatory, but for this, a model needed. And when the Soviet collapsed, so and it was collapsed market of billions of people, and it was nuclear. And when we understand this model, then we understand that it can be done through platform solution, technological, and organization.
Юрисдикцию правильно, новое право должно быть.
Administrative decision, regulatory
Применение дает
law
возможность
and application. It gives
в каком пространстве находишься, ты применять не
ability to apply sanctions.
технологически картинка может быть.
So technologically, the picture can be presented like this. Base resources and decision made on the base platform, industrial and regional, for example, machinery and
Повторно использовать такое решение, это очень
ship construction.
причем с многими странами это разворачивается. Какие базовые инструменты?
So the base tools in our project.
Экономического сотрудничества и
So in the name of the project, the environment of economic cooperation and different organizations, people, countries join. And in here, the first tools, working environment, so trading and finance, and their industrial chains. And finance we discussed now, like economy information, because you just enter here in the sphere of influence of the central banks, which are being coordinated by this certain way. Digital values. This is experimental zones with the legislation, which is under state, under government, and it provides opportunity to avoid countries' control through the legislation, the management of intellectual property, finance, and etc. That it being managed through legislation. So we have some independent points: Crimea, Turkey, Armenia. And we have other software and programs that can enable us to invite, to attract players. You can see at the bottom the basis of production operations and communication environment. On top, you can see a graph. Many layers of the systems are operated through graphs. For example, we start trading in grain. Who establishes the grain price in New York Stock Exchange, metals in the London Stock Exchange? If I want to sell shares, then I'll have to do it at the New York Stock Exchange. Finances used are, of course, the US finances, the dollar. So we need to restructure the system to take into account the interests of the customer. And there are many layers
I can show it. That's infrastructure. Under infrastructure, there are no layers. So there are several layers: organizational, transportation, cultural, military, defense, and government, public administration. And so you can see the graph and the digital values. Here you have a picture that helps you to understand the graphs, the production chain, and, for example, resources or commodities, transportation, processing. And if the earlier to 21st century we had in a physical ways, now these chains are moved into the digital space, and the top of the slide shows you about it. Now we start a financial system. Here you have a digital value, and I've talked about it already. Project production centers that lay down the future production chains. And the plan of realization of the project. The center means the working environment. Arrows show when we become more independent. We've designed this plan. We designed this plan 2 years ago, and now it's being implemented at the government level. Here you can see sectorial decisions, regional decisions, and solutions. And the picture shows how it should look in organizational terms. Here we organize a consortium, which includes the Plekhanov University, as you can see it from the slide. Thank you very much, Alexey Borisovich. Yes, you're very quick. Evgeny Borisovich, the Plekhanov University has received a grant to form a government-state plan, economic plan. It's not just Gosplan, it's a planning strategy. Yes, of course, I've heard about it. What do you think of it? What's your attitude towards this planning strategy? So, do you take part in it? Yes. To a certain extent, we are participants. Unfortunately, this information is not public. And our university also takes part in a two-counter financial currency system. And we have discussions in order to coordinate all these decisions and solutions. Will it help us to alleviate the problems, mitigate all these problems? Not yet, because we have not designed a model. When we've designed it, then we'll see. Now, at present, it's not clear what we'll plan, because we use Western models. If you use it in your planning, you won't change the situation, because we have external management. No matter what you do, you'll have automat the gun, Kalashnikov's gun, as we have a joke. We have to discuss all these models with the Turks, the Egyptians, and even the Americans, because all the layers should be included to take into account, even cultural ones. Now, the hegemon is not able to take everything under control, and so the situation will continue to be turbulent for the next few years, and contracts will not be stable. we should start with the philosophy, with the manifesto. So what are the cultural, universal human values are important for us? And we are working in this area. Dear colleagues, thank you very much. Thank you for for the lively discussion. Now I'd like to give floor to Evgeny Borisovich has to leave. So now I'd like to give floor to the graduate of our university, to one of the youngest deputies of the State Duma, Anton Tkachев. So the floor is yours. Thank you. Dear friends, I talk in simpler terms compared to the previous speaker. It was not an easy talk. I had to concentrate to understand it. So what's the topic? Digital sovereignty in the frame of the defense industry. But digital sovereignty depends on you. As Sergei Sanch said, the winter was quite unexpected for us, and we saw that we have not laid the groundwork to make a breakthrough or to leave behind those who are very aggressive towards our country. So there are two ways if we look at our defense industry. The first is rather difficult and complicated. It's a standard one. We visited the defense factory in Rostov Oblast. They assembled the combat vehicles. And we talked with technologists and we asked a question: why are you not unable to grow the production of the helicopters? They're just designing some new things, but it's not a quick process. It's not in line with new models. And the reason is very simple. There are no engineers. The student understands that an engineer is a guy with a mustache that is servicing the equipment. But there are different kinds of engineers. There are digital engineers with new engineers capable of working with high level of equipment. And why are the reasons? The salaries, the pay is not very attractive. You, as young specialists, will have good salaries just at the very beginning, and you'll grow. But in order to grow a good engineer, it takes much more effort because there are specific subjects as material resistance, drawings, and it will take about 10 years to raise an engineer up to the fifth grade or level. And again, salaries, 40,000, 50,000 at best. I'm talking about regional salaries because all the big productions are concentrated in the region. So, in the question of prestige, it's not very prestigious nowadays. And there is a second way. So you don't always have to work with screws. You may use robots for this purpose, and you have a lot of departments in your university which give you a chance, this education, to become a digital engineer who will devise new approaches. And it will take 7-10 years. Again, that's what we need. Taking into account the Russian policy towards innovations. It's rather, it looks upon as something dangerous, and including turbulent situation in the country, people are afraid. So the second way is being implemented in other countries using artificial intelligence, big data. I was involved in big data, and I had training just as a production when I went to work with the Russia's helicopters, the managing company. And it had big departments, big plants, and they used buses to connect. I went to the production and operation engineer, and he asked me to draw a production chain. I did, and he said, you'll be able to produce sweets, but you have problems here in the defense industry. But still, I was quick to learn, and I became a good specialist and an expert, and then I climbed the career ladder. Now I deal with innovations and new policy. Of course, there are a lot of difficulties, and the topic is very complicated. But still, we have to cope with all these difficulties. You are young, and I would like to wish you to pay attention to the digital space. Just get interested in it, and then you'll get involved. There are a lot of interesting kinds of training, new technologies, digital engineers. All these areas are very promising, and they receive a lot of preferences from the government: free education, additional education, training, company subsidies, mortgage at 5%. So I can see that there are students from the fifth, fourth, third, and first year. So you are a potential that could use the second, that go the second way, and just it will help us to prevent the the unexpected winter coming. Now let's move close to the topic. Maybe you have some questions. So digital space in the frame of the sovereignty, digital sovereignty of the defense industry. It depends on the systems that are used by the government, by the public corporations. The system of government state planning, when it can be formed not at one plant, but in the frame of a big corporation, starting from the outset and the termination of, and the completion of the tasks under the contract, and quality control. Today, all this is being formed on the point model structures, and Russia doesn't have a uniform system that can aggregate data. So we have different examples from the commercial sector, in the commercial sector, Bittrex and others. But the structure, the whole of the Russian Federation doesn't use these preferences, privileges. It should be more active. For example, the defense order should be structured in one place, in one point, because, of course, it's sensitive information. It should be maybe confidential, but though I am opting for open economy, for transparency in the market economy. And another important issue is the use of artificial intelligence. GPT chat helped to write a student's diploma, and the professors, instead of praising the student for his inventive approaches, was very critical of it. But actually, artificial intelligence is very close to us. Maybe 10 years, 20 years ago, we talked about the importance of IT professions. Now we are lagging behind. The same is happening with the artificial intelligence. So administrators, accountants, they are very expensive. They got trained, and in a couple of years, they are not needed on the market. And there are some real examples like this. We waste resources and time of the government, of the state, of an individual, and as a result is such a deplorable one. So, for example, credit lending, if you come across a manager who does not like you, you may not receive this credit. So it can be robotized. So artificial intelligence is one of the fundamental issues that should be taken into account in planning systems of the defense industry. When then we won't have corruption, we won't have systemic failures that depend on people. When each figure is under control and which can be explained, that's work with big data. So if all these things are taken into account while forming a digital ecosystem, just starting from the education of highly qualified personnel to the production of ready-made goods, of ready-made manufactured goods, then we'll be able to reach this digital sovereignty we're talking about. And I wish you have dreams, make strategic planning, but still enjoy your present. I would like to ask a question, if it's possible. Who would like to work with the defense industry through some way or the other?
Why I asked this question? Yesterday I had a session. Venture. We discussed venture. So, and I gathered top ventures, state one, commercial ones, and I asked a question. Who is doing something? And I just gave them a microphone to ask. So who's doing what, and what's your dream, and whether it complies with your dream, with your reality? And 75% answered. They answered that they do real, practical, pragmatic businesses. They said they liked it, and only 25% answered unreal, abstract idea, but very interesting ones. So what I mean is that you are our future and defense industry. Yes, you're great. And it's not like samples like stipulated in our heads, like helicopters, Rostec, 600 enterprises, 100,000 people employed, advanced nanotechnologies, and so on and so on. And we communicate with you. And you always need to ask yourself, is my opinion stereotype, a sample, dogma, or it's a result of my own research? I hope next year we will have more hands raised. And also we have representatives of the main defense bank of the system, FSB. So, and in this difficult time, this driver continues to perform, and professor of a banker, it can be a new bright future. Thank you. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Thank you very much for invitation for this very interesting discussion. And as a representative of Rosbank, my name is Mikhail Fedorin, so present Center of Competences of OPECOM. And I'm telling you that the subject we discussed today is one of the base topics in the system of building of our industry today and tomorrow. And as financial institution and as part of Center of Competences, we pay attention to study process of digitalization, how it impacts now and how it will be impacting in the future on the industrial processes and economy. So, and on macro politics processes. And of course, digitalization. Now, more and more penetrate in our life and becomes like disciplinary connecting industry. And today, with the faculty you study in, you will be related to technologies which can be employed and in industrial, defense, industrial complex. And as we can see now, it's interconnecting, interpenetrating things. And when you're asked whether do you want to be connected in defense industry, you probably have already been touched or involved in something which you even considered. And it's more and more universal, become more and more universal. And the subject of today's discussion so it's very important and important to be scaled because development industrial competences in the world, so it should be unavoidable objective process which is interpenetrating, and it will be unified. So when we discuss digitalization, when we discuss today its impact and its place in defense industry, first of all, we mean the motive of industrial and scientific in terms of practical and academical development of industry. And of course, we need to understand the processes in this sphere. And of course, we have to forecast development of them. And if we succeed in it, we will be able, our technologies, to have advanced effect. And you are probably like authors or participants of realization of such technologies. You will be able to achieve different successes in many aspects, and also financial one. Thank you very much. I made my remark. So thank you, colleagues. Thank you. So, Mikhail Alexeyevich. I can answer as a representative of Financial Institute for financing industry of a product. I'm not competent to comment all nuances of the process, but it's clear that any industrial cycle or business plan, it's needed coordination and agreement in all stages, and people understand where and from where it gets. From Swissbank. So has students for practicing. Why you dubious? So because I need to ask my colleagues what's their plans to cooperate to work with institutions. So next year, yes. Colleagues. I would like to answer a question. So you asked a question. All planning system is being built the following way. So everything which is military defense, how military defense complex works, it's provided by contracts, and which is proved by the government, and state customer it's not allowed over budget. And before it's proved, so it goes through the very serious planning system. So this system is developed for 10 years period and proved for every 5 years. So state defense order is proved for 3 years, and the budget is proved for a year. So now we work of state orders, which is proved by budget, and budget is provided. So, and answering your question, we can understand how state military program plans. So it's many ministries and agencies, and there is president program, which is stated by president order, and all the procedures and development of this product follow according to the plans and graphics. And before to develop the state program of defense, before the stipulation of this program, there is package of documents which is the single system of the initial data. There are several documents. One of them is, so I don't say literally, I just say in general words. So the main directions of development: industry, science and technologies for the state, defense and security. And Ministry of Defense is responsible for that, and 46 Institute is the most responsible, but there are several ones: aviation, heavy machinery, Ministry of Defense and Science, Ministry, Russian Academy of Science. So, and development of science technology is developed and stipulated, and all this estimated, formulated, and balanced at the stage of agreement. So, of course, it's very serious and detailed work. And in terms of what is military defense complex is busy with, the main criteria is realization. Plans, so tasks which are not in consensus are not in test targets. So, and the models of helicopters which were developed in the Soviet, it's not industrial issue, it's industrial for militarists, because industry provides what is ordered. And we hope that you are, as a young people, help the military people to persuade them that our science is ready to move to the new generation military projects. But that planning system exists. It's true, and that it's very needed system. If you are not interested just to relate yourself to the defense system, be ready that this military complex comes to you. Because last year we saw a situation when 20, 30 young people tried to be employed, and they were happy when they were employed.
Эта система более сложная, чем мы можем себе представить здесь и сейчас. Почему? Потому что Федерация трудового вооружения, она содержит в себе, по большому счету,
So it's more complicated than we can imagine now, because it has several procedures which has to be developed in a certain period. So, and moreover, state programs, development of defense system, electronic aviation system, and part of task investment. State investment, it's not in the military frame programs, it's in the frame of other, let's say, investment programs. That's why all programs which is for attracting investment, infrastructure development, they're all built on the principles of the state and private cooperation, and every program has its own requests according to proportion. Let's say 70 by 40, 70 budget, state budget, and 30 commercial. And the problem that there is digitalization is very needed, and unless investment is contributed, the environment is being changed, and we need new samples. So, and we can face the problem that investment were done in one direction, but development goes different direction, like drones, different drone systems. So, and now we can see the time of response is very much reduced. We don't need expensive, large samples which developed by decades and cost billions. But in some cases, the victory can be done cheap, but with big amount weaponry products which can be more effective. So, answering your question, no one plans samples. The main system of planning is built on the threats and challenges. So, and the target can be minimization of the problems.
когда есть образцы, утычивающие, сенсы, сид, сенсы и так далее. Вот это очень важно понимать.
This is very important to understand the complex and connection, what is going on. So pay attention also. So who is the leader of defense system? This is the graduates of financial institutions. So there was a question so about the state defense order. So before we had idea diversification to move from the military complex to the civil complex. Now we understand that we come back to the military complex. So it's not so marginal. For example, so during formation of the state program of weaponry, so in 5 years it should be modernized, which we need research and development. So there is no margin, no expert money, economic situation, then enterprises start to work without margin or with losses. So what do you think can be a solution? So it's very big scaled question. I'm not sure we can answer now, but colleagues, please connect to this work. You have your thesis work, diploma work, and you write this. Select this topic because it will be valuable investment from you. So today we can see that the means which is earned contracted money, so we can see a problem to get them because financial streamline is quite difficult and has difficulties now. And as far as I know, Rusty raised important question about the source of financing. So as far as for the state order, we have to discuss. So I don't think it was changed a lot based on our analysis. Some enterprises increased their orders, some enterprises didn't get their orders. So it should be some kind of redistribution, structural redistribution. In the past, Ministry of Defense ordered sub-programs of research and development. It was paid by the Ministry of Defense. So, and all this scientific and technical work sent to industry. Then 5 years ago, Ministry of Defense changed its approach and said this is task for the industry, and if it's needed for the production and if it's needed will be used, then we will compensate. But you know the situation now, the state defense order, it's regulated by state, and there is financial requirement. So, and prime cost is included on the current cost, and it doesn't matter how much enterprise invests. So just to get returns, it's difficult, and we hope the diversification will help us. But if enterprise can explain the costs, and if everything is correct and the customer can pay for this in frame of the budget, then diversification, it's price building with the price of the market, and you need to compete, by the way. And we can see this gap, and we can say it's challenge, and also because of science, how to finance science given deficit of operational activity.
There are world practices how to tackle, but it's based on transparent normative legal framework which defines the role of each player. And second is based on macroeconomic stability. You have to know the conditions and terms, and our system of planning now is faced with a lot of difficulties because we lack stability. It's quite a responsible statement that the defense industry is not only military and industrial complex as a structure. We have military-industrial complex and shipbuilding, aviation, aircraft building. So it's not just limited to the defense industry, which is regulated by the Ministry of Economy. So today, all these proposals, which we receive from the integrated structures, we have to consolidate and to have a comprehensive approach to their evaluation. Imperfect regulation in this area and low level of culture and with regards to the copyright, intellectual property rights. That really, these are obstacles. So we have, this question can be addressed through the external prerequisites. So we have to regulate many areas of activity to improve the situation with the government order. Thank you very much for your detailed answer. Dear colleagues, could you switch on the presentation? Do you have any comments now? After the presentation, we'll continue discussion. So, aerospace, Digital Valley, we have 3 technological areas. We cooperate with the universities in these areas. So what has happened to the screen? It's switched off. Can you switch on? Please. So we cooperate with universities in 4 technological areas. So different. I need a different presentation, please.
Да-да-да, вот это вот, если можно.
Okay, thank you. This one. I need this one. So there are 4 technological areas: radio electronics, IT, aerospace technologies, and biomedicine technologies. So if you have any potential startups, ideas in any of these areas, we'll be ready to discuss them, to grow them in a full-fledged business. Here we have colleagues from other units that would be ready to support your innovations if your project continued developing. So our main task is to create a system which was ordered by our key clients, customers, and to set up a private space company. We're not going to build a Death Star, of course, but to build, to have the production of spare parts and other things. That's what we plan to do. And companies with the turnover of up to $1 billion and young startups with no turnover are invited to cooperate with us. The initiator is the Moscow Aviation University, and our key partner is the Plekhanov University. The co-founders are the Russian government of the Russian Federation and the government of the Ryazan Oblast. As I already said, residents of our valley can be young startups, small, mid-sized businesses, and big business companies that have their own innovational departments and are involved in innovation and research in one of these areas, which I have mentioned. So as far as startups are concerned, there is no much interest. And in order to invite big companies, they receive tax benefits. That's why they're interested in cooperating with us. So the infrastructure in Ryazan, we have 2 buildings in the center, and Technopark, 140 square hectares. In Moscow, the area is 3,000 square meters, and here there we have laboratories. So it's the principle. In principle, it resembles a little bit Skolkovo, but we have more specific projects. Of course, your projects should not be related only to space, but that relations is very desirable, of course. So these are my contacts, and we would be willing to discuss your projects, specific projects. If you have any questions, I'm ready to answer them. If not, I'll give the floor to Vladimir Ivanovich, who would talk about the key bottlenecks of the industry and what solutions can be offered here. So, Vladimir Ivanovich, the floor is yours. Once again, afternoon, dear colleagues and friends. First of all, I'd like to celebrate you on your anniversary. The university, your university, is a key player, is a very strong institution, educational institution, which has accumulated a wealth of experience. We are here in historic walls of the university. We can see that a lot of young people attend our sessions. So your life position is very active, and I believe in you. I believe that next 116 years of the university will be quite prosperous and successful. It's, by the way, this university is among priorities of the integrated structures of our complex. I delivered lectures in these walls for management, senior managers and management reserve. So you are one of the elements that give hope for the development of the defense industry in Russia. And what I'm going to talk, it may help you to understand better the situation, to get orientation. When we talk about the defense industry, we speak about the military-industrial complex. When we talk about planes, missiles, tanks, that's defense-oriented production. It is included into the military and industrial complex. But if they are exported, that it's a military purpose production. So we have a system of protection, have a system of defense. We are not aggressive, but we are ready to protect our country and land. So the issues are of great scale. They bring about challenges that we need to tackle, to meet. So if you're interested in the informational sources I can share them with you. But if you are interested in working with us, be ready to be responsible. It's not just words appealing to mega projects and development strategies. It's some very specific things, plant departments, jobs, and we need people who can read drawings, who understand logical connections. If you start as a big manager of a big project, you won't understand what's going on inside, and you will just receive the information from bottom up. It will hinder the understanding. So it's much better to start from the bottom and to grow inside. It will help you to take weighted decisions. Today, we just have some directives from the top, and the government gives directives, gives directions as a shareholder. And now we have this task to move on, to introduce digital technologies, to raise digital literacy. But how should we go about it? What we can see that sometimes digital solutions that are not tested, they just are outside, beyond the perimeter. So we need very tested and fine-tuned solutions, because nobody wants the solutions, the technologies be stolen or stopped or reduced to zero. So the digitalization is very important, but it's about the level of development of the solutions. And industry companies are just the consumers and clients among themselves. But the problem cannot be solved from the inside. Of course, we hope that the external environment will help. What we need is to build the process of management and administration that should not be in conflict between themselves, that there should be no conflict among the data, and you should always know the answer for your actions. Why do you do it? I understand that we have some time limits, but I'd like to give you a couple of examples. So the government order, if you deal with it, who establishes the prices in the frame of the government order? It should be done through the procedure of forecast prices. So we have two processes. How is this government order prices established. There are some inconsistencies in the price formation in terms of time limits. At first, how can we calculate a price? At first, we have a picture of a new good. So it's just an example of a conflict in price formation in terms of time limits. And another example, digitalization will help to use more robots, but it's all cost and labor intensive, and they are calculated when you introduce digital solutions. That leads to blocking the calculation of salaries. So those companies who are very quickly digitalizing, they just punish themselves. Labor intensivity is lowering, is falling, and instead of praises, they receive prosecutor general's inspections. So you are our savers, because you will be able, and I'm sure of it, to calculate the economic costs of a production unit, and you will tie up to these costs the replacement sources, and you'll be able to prove the cost, the real cost, and find additional sources in order used to create the economic, to lay the ground for new economic breakthroughs. So I hope that the work done by university will help us to improve the situation in future. It's a very important position, and we look at you with great hope.
So, and we have, if we have questions, we can answer them. If not, we can finish. So, but this subject is very complicated, but it's perspective, and you will face it, and probably it will be one of the most demanding in your future employers. And it's better that you learn it, and it's better that you will understand it, and it will be good for your future. I hope it's over. Thank you, colleagues.